The warning lights flashed red throughout the royal shuttle. Queen Zeralia gripped her seat as the vessel shook violently. Her forearms instinctively reached for support, while her iridescent blue skin paled with stress. "Your Majesty, the Solar." "Flare damaged our navigation systems," said Captain Lorix, her chief guard. "We cannot maintain course." Zeralia nodded, keeping her royal composure despite the danger. "Options, Captain?" "The escape pod, Your Majesty. It is your only chance." The captain's voice remained steady, but his eyes revealed the truth. This was a one-way journey for the Queen. Another explosion rocked the shuttle. Systems failed across the command console. The royal guards moved with practiced precision, forming a protective circle around their queen as they guided her to the escape pod. "The Empire needs you, Your Majesty," Lorix said, helping her into the pod. "We will ensure your survival." Before Zeralia could protest, the pod door sealed. Through the small window, she watched her loyal guards bow one final time. The pod ejected moments before the shuttle burst into a ball of flame. The small pod tumbled through space, its systems barely functioning after being caught in the blast. Zeralia tried to control its direction, but the navigation was damaged. The pod entered the atmosphere of an uncharted blue planet, heat building around the hull as it plummeted toward the surface. Pain shot through her body as the pod crashed, smashing through trees before coming to rest in a forest clearing. The impact knocked her unconscious, blue blood seeping from a wound on her head. Jack Harper loved the quiet of his evening patrols. After 8 years as a military medic, the peaceful forest was exactly what he needed. He drove his ranger truck slowly along the dirt road, enjoying the fading sunlight filtering through the tall pine trees. The flash came without warning, a streak of light across the sky, followed by a distant crash that shook the ground. Jack stopped his truck, stepping out to scan the forest. That was no meteor. Its descent had been too controlled until the final moments. "Base, this is Harper," he said into his radio. "Go ahead, Jack," the voice of Linda, the night dispatcher, replied. Jack hesitated. Protocol said to report anything unusual. But something told him this was different. "Just checking in. All quiet on the eastern ridge. I'll finish my patrol and head back." "Copy that. Stay safe out there." Jack turned off his radio. He grabbed his medical kit and flashlight, then headed in the direction of the crash. The fading light made it hard to see, but years of military training had sharpened his senses. He followed broken branches and disturbed earth until he reached a small clearing. The object was like nothing he had ever seen. Not a plane or helicopter, but some kind of pod about the size of a small car. Its surface was metallic, with strange symbols etched into it. Steam rose from the hull, which glowed faintly in the growing darkness. Jack approached cautiously. The pod had split open on impact, revealing its interior. He shined his flashlight inside and froze. The creature was humanoid, but clearly not human. 4 arms, blue skin that seemed to shimmer even in the dim light. A delicate crystal-like structure framed its face, which, despite its alien features, showed clear signs of pain. Jack's medical training kicked in before his fear could take hold. The blue blood pooling beneath the creature's head meant it was injured. Whatever it was alive and needed help. "Hey," he said softly, knowing it probably couldn't understand him. "I'm going to help you, okay?" The creature's eyes fluttered open briefly, eyes with purple irises that seemed to glow from within. It made a sound, a series of clicks, and musical tones before losing consciousness again. Jack checked for breathing and found a pulse point on what seemed to be its neck. The rhythm was fast but steady. Working quickly, he used gauze from his kit to stop the bleeding. The creature's skin felt cool to the touch, almost like polished stone. "What are you?" he whispered as he worked. And what am I supposed to do? With you? Government protocols for unknown objects were clear. Secure the site, report immediately, wait for specialists. But Jack had seen how those specialists worked during his military days. This being, whatever it was, would become a research subject, not a patient. He made his decision. After stabilizing the creature as best he could, Jack carefully lifted it from the pod. It was lighter than he expected, despite being nearly his height. He carried it to his truck, placing it gently in the back seat. From his truck, Jack retrieved an emergency blanket to cover the mysterious visitor. Then he took photos of the pod with his phone and gathered a few small fragments that had broken off. Evidence just in case. I must be losing my mind, he muttered as he drove toward his cabin, taking back roads to avoid being seen. His cabin sat alone at the end of a long driveway, far from any neighbors, one of the reasons he'd chosen it after leaving the service. He carried the alien inside, placing it on his bed. Under better light, Jack could see more details. The being wore what appeared to be clothing made of a material similar to silk, but stronger. Intricate patterns adorned the fabric, and jewels were woven into certain areas, around the collar and wrists. This wasn't just any alien. The pod, the clothes, the jewels, everything suggested importance. He cleaned the head wound properly, noting how the blood seemed to thicken and seal the injury on its own. Advanced healing abilities, perhaps. The creature's breathing had steadied, but it remained unconscious. Jack set up in 4 with saline solution, hoping its system wasn't too different from humans. It was a risk, but dehydration could kill across species, he reasoned. Throughout the night, Jack watched over his unexpected guest. He checked vital signs, adjusted blankets, and wondered what would happen when those purple eyes opened again. Dawn was breaking when the alien finally stirred. Its 4 hands moved slightly, and a soft trilling sound escaped its lips. Jack moved closer, medical kit ready. The alien's eyes opened slowly, focusing on Jack. There was confusion at first, then something like recognition. It tried to sit, but winced in pain. Easy, Jack said, gently helping it to a sitting position. You're safe. You were hurt, but you're going to be okay. The alien studied him intently. Then it reached out with one of its right hands and touched a device on its wrist that Jack had assumed was jewelry. A small light glowed, and the device emitted a low hum. Human, it said in a feminine voice that sounded slightly mechanical. You ... helped me? Jack's eyes widened. You can speak English? Universal translator, the alien replied, touching the device again. Not ... perfect, damaged and crash. Yes, I helped you, Jack said slowly. You were injured. I'm a medic. A healer. The alien nodded, a surprisingly human gesture. I am Zerelia of the Navorian Empire. She placed her upper right hand over her chest in what seemed like a formal gesture. You have my gratitude, human healer. Jack smiled despite himself. Jack. My name is Jack Harper. Jack Harper, Zerelia repeated carefully. Where am I? You're on Earth. In my home. Your ship or pod crashed in the forest. Fear flashed in Zerelia's eyes. Others must not find me. Not safe. Don't worry, Jack assured her. No one knows you're here, but I need to understand what happened. Why you crashed. What you're doing on Earth. Zerelia looked at him with those strange purple eyes. She seemed to be making a decision, weighing whether to trust this human who had saved her life. I am not just Navorian, she finally said. I am Queen Zerelia, ruler of 500 star systems. She paused, watching Jack's reaction. And if my people cannot find me soon, your world may be in grave danger. Jack stared at Queen Zerelia, trying to process her words. 500 star systems? He asked. You rule that many worlds? Together with King Dravalak, Yes, Zerelia said. She tried to stand, but swayed slightly. Jack rushed to support her, his hands carefully holding two of her forearms. You should rest, he said, guiding her back to sit on the bed. Your injuries need time to heal. Zerelia nodded reluctantly. Time is what we lack, Jack Harper. If my people believe I am dead, the succession protocols will activate. My mate, my king will seek vengeance. Your world could become a target. Jack ran a hand through his hair, the weight of the situation settling on his shoulders. Can you contact them somehow? Let them know you're alive? My communication device was damaged in the crash, she said, pointing to a small crystal embedded in her clothing near her shoulder. It requires repair. Over the next 3 days, Jack cared for the alien queen. Her body healed quickly, the blue skin knitting together where it had been cut. She grew stronger each day, and Jack found himself fascinated by her stories of the vast Navorian Empire. Our people evolved in oceans before adapting to land, she explained one evening as they sat by the fireplace. The 4 arms proved advantageous for building and later for developing technology. And the crystal structures on your face? Jack asked. He had noticed how they changed color slightly with her moods. A sign of royal lineage, Zerelia said, touching the delicate formations around her eyes. They grow more complex with age. And wisdom. Mine mark me as a direct descendant of the first queen. Jack smiled. On Earth, some people wear crowns to show their royalty. Yours is built in. Zerelia made a musical sound that Jack had come to recognize as laughter. Your world is young, Jack Harper, but your people are clever. I have seen how you adapt and solve problems. It is ... impressive. Jack found himself warming to the compliment. Speaking of solving problems, let's look at your communicator again. I have an idea. In his shed behind the cabin, Jack had collected old radio equipment from his days as a hobbyist. Together, they worked on connecting the alien device to Earth. Technology. Jack's hands were steady as he soldered tiny connections, following Zerelia's instructions. This metal in your equipment, she said, examining a circuit board. It is crude but effective. With modifications, it might amplify my signal enough to reach our scout ships. Scout ships? Jack looked up from his work. There are already. Navorians near Earth? Zerelia's expression turned serious. We monitor developing worlds from a distance. It is forbidden to interfere with natural evolution. She paused. By helping me, you have become involved in matters beyond your world. I am breaking our highest laws. Laws or not, I couldn't just leave you there, Jack said simply. Their eyes met, and something passed between them. Understanding, perhaps. Or respect. Jack returned to his work, aware of Zerelia, watching him with curious eyes. While Jack and Zerelia worked on the communicator, other eyes were watching the forest. Kate Williams sat in a black SUV, parked on a service road, reviewing satellite images on her laptop. The object entered atmosphere at 2,147 hours, she told the 2 agents with her. Trajectory suggests controlled descent until the final moments. Definitely not natural. Meteor, though, said Agent Perry, looking over her shoulder. That's what the official report says. Kate closed the laptop with a snap. Since when do meteors change direction mid-fall? Something's out there, and Harper knows what it is. She had been tracking the forest ranger's movements for 2 days. After the crash, he had gone off radio for nearly an hour. His truck had taken back roads to his cabin instead of returning to the ranger station. And now he was making strange purchases in town. Electronic components, medical supplies, and large amounts of food. We move tonight, she decided. Small. Team, no sirens. If there's something alien out there, it belongs to the NSA, not some forest ranger with a hero complex. Back at the cabin, Jack and Zerelia had made progress. The modified communicator hummed with energy, lights blinking on its crystal surface. "It's working," Zerelia said, excitement in her voice. "The signal is weak, but it might reach a nearby scout ship." She pressed several crystals in sequence, then spoke in her native language, a series of musical tones and clicks that Jack found beautiful despite not understanding the words. "Now we wait," she said after finishing her message. "If a scout ship receives this, they will alert the royal fleet." She placed one of her hands on Jack's arm. "You have done more than anyone could ask, Jack Harper." Jack smiled, but worry nagged at him. "What happens when your people come? What will they think of ... this?" He gestured between them. "Contact with developing species is forbidden," Zerelia admitted. "But these are unusual circumstances. I will ensure your safety." The night grew dark outside the cabin. Jack prepared a simple meal, which they shared at his small table. Zerelia had been hesitant about Earth food at first, but had found certain vegetables and fruits compatible with her biology. "In the morning, we should move to a more open area," Zerelia suggested. "If a scout ship responds, they will need space to land." Jack nodded, but before he could respond, the lights in the Yazend cabin flickered and went out. "Did you hear that?" he whispered, instantly alert. His military training kicked in as he moved to the window, staying to the side to peer out. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness outside, moving steadily toward the cabin. Jack counted. At least 4 lights, too many for a random visit. "Someone's coming," he whispered, "and they're trying not to be noticed." Fear flashed in Zerelia's eyes. "Your authorities? What will they do if they find me?" Jack didn't answer immediately. He knew exactly what would happen. The Queen would become a research subject, possibly dissected in the name of science and national security. "We need to leave, now." He grabbed his backpack, quickly filling it with supplies: water, food, first aid kit. "There's a back door through the kitchen. Stay low and follow me." Zerelia moved with surprising quietness, her 4 arms allowing her to balance perfectly, even in the dark. Jack led her to the door, easing it open slowly to avoid making noise. A voice came from the front of the cabin. "Jack Harper, this is Agent Williams with the National Security Agency. We know you're in there. Open the door immediately." Jack cursed under his breath. "Run," he whispered to Zerelia. "Into the trees. I'll be right behind you." The alien queen hesitated. "I will not leave you to face danger alone." "I'll be fine," Jack insisted. "Go. Now." As Zerelia slipped into the darkness of the forest, Jack took a deep breath. He had helped an alien queen, defied government protocols, and was now about to face NSA agents. Nothing in his military training had prepared him for this. The front door burst open with a crash. Flashlight beams swept through the cabin, catching Jack in their light as he stood in the kitchen. "Where is it, Harper?" Agent Williams demanded, her gun pointed at his chest. "Where's the alien?" Billions of miles away, King Dravalok stood motionless on the command deck of the royal battleship. His crystalline features showed no emotion, but the darkening color of his facial structures betrayed his distress. Around him, royal advisors waited in tense silence. "The report is confirmed, Your Majesty," said Admiral Zenter, bowing deeply. The Queen's shuttle was destroyed by a solar flare near the restricted zone of Sector 7. "And my queen?" Dravalok's voice was deep and controlled. The Admiral hesitated. "No survival beacon has been detected, Your Majesty." Dravalok closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, they glowed with a fierce purple light. "Prepare the Imperial fleet. I will see this sector myself." "Your Majesty," another advisor stepped forward. The shuttle's trajectory before destruction was unusual. It diverted toward the developing world in that system. "Earth," Dravalok said the name carefully. A protected planet under non-interference protocols. Yes, Your Majesty. But if there was foul play? The king's 4 hands clenched simultaneously. Assemble my elite guard. Commander Varric will lead an advance team to this Earth. If my queen's death was not an accident, someone will pay. On Earth, Jack faced Agent Williams and her team. 4 agents had entered his cabin, their guns pointed at him. I don't know what you're talking about, Jack said calmly. I live alone. Kate Williams stepped closer, her eyes sharp and suspicious. Satellite imagery shows an object crashing in your patrol zone. You went off radio. You've been buying unusual supplies. And our thermal scanners picked up 2 heat signatures in this cabin 10 minutes ago. She pointed her gun directly at Jack's chest. Where is the alien? There's no alien, Jack insisted. I found a crashed satellite and took some pieces. Probably. Illegal, I know, but I was curious. Williams nodded to one of her agents, who moved toward the bedroom. Search everything, she ordered. Jack knew he needed to buy time for Zeralia to get away. Look, he said, whatever you think is happening, you're wrong. I'm just a forest ranger. A forest ranger with military medical training and an interest in radio equipment, Williams countered, gesturing to the electronic components on the table. What were you building, Harper? Before Jack could answer, the agent returned from the bedroom. Ma'am, you need to see this. Williams followed the agent, keeping her gun trained on Jack. Her eyes widened at the sight of the bed. Blue stains marked the sheets, Zeralia's blood. What is this? She demanded. Blue paint, Jack lied. I was fixing up some furniture. Williams touched the stain, rubbing it between her fingers. This isn't paint. She turned to Jack with new intensity. Restrain him. 2 agents grabbed Jack's arms, forcing them behind his back. Cold handcuffs snapped around his wrists. Jack Harper, you're being detained under the National Security Act, Williams said. Anything alien in origin is government property. Harboring extraterrestrial material or beings is treason. Jack was pushed roughly into a chair. You can't do this. I have rights. Not when it comes to national security, Williams replied coldly. She turned to her team. Secure the perimeter. Our visitor couldn't have gone far. Deep in the forest, Zeralia moved swiftly between trees. Her 4 arms helped her navigate the rough terrain, pushing branches aside and steadying herself on the uneven ground. The communicator at her wrist blinked faintly, a response to her earlier message. Coordinates received, Your Majesty, came a faint voice from the device. Scout ship approaching your location. Estimated arrival, 30 Earth minutes. Hurry, Zeralia whispered to the device. There are complications. She paused, looking back toward Jack's cabin. Lights now surrounded it, and she could see more. Vehicles arriving. The human had saved her life and was now in danger because of her. A thought troubled her deeply. Ivorian royal protocol was clear. Her safety came before all else. But Jack had shown her something about humanity that challenged everything she had been taught about developing worlds. He had helped her without knowing who she was, without expectation of reward. Zeralia made her decision. Turning away from her planned escape route, she circled back, staying hidden among the trees. She would not abandon her rescuer. In orbit around Earth, a small Navorian scout ship deactivated its cloaking technology briefly to allow a larger vessel to emerge from hyperspace. The new arrival was sleek and deadly, a Royal Guard ship carrying Commander Varric and 20 elite soldiers. Report, Varric ordered as he stepped onto the bridge. We have located the Queen's signal, Commander, the scout ship captain replied. She is alive on the planet's surface. Relief flickered across Varric's face before his training reasserted control. Landing coordinates? A forested region, sparsely populated. But there's a complication. Earth vehicles are converging on the area. Their primitive scanning devices might detect our approach. Varric considered this. We will land at a distance and approach on foot. The Queen's safety is our only concern. He turned to his soldiers. Prepare for hostile rescue operation. Any Earth creature that threatens Her Majesty is to be eliminated. Back at the cabin, Jack sat handcuffed while Agent Williams directed the search. More agents had arrived, setting up equipment around the property. The alien can't have gone far, Williams said, studying a digital map. Set up a perimeter 2 miles out. Use thermal imaging and motion sensors. An agent approached with Jack's phone. Ma'am, we found images of the crash site. Some kind of pod with alien markings. Williams examined the photos, her expression triumphant. Where's the crash site, Harper? Make this easier on yourself. Jack remained silent. Every minute he bought for Zorelia increased her chances of escape. Williams sighed. Have it your way. Team 2, prepare for transport. We're taking Harper to a secure facility. She leaned close to Jack. The alien will be found, with or without your help. And when we find it, it becomes government property. She, Jack corrected without thinking. Not it. William smiled slowly. She? Now we're getting somewhere. Suddenly, all the equipment in the cabin went dead. Radios, computers, even flashlights flickered and died. What's happening? Williams demanded. An agent by the window called. Out, ma'am. There's something in the sky. Everyone turned to look. Through the window, a bright light descended through the clouds, moving with purpose. It was too controlled to be a meteor, too silent to be an aircraft. The scout ship, Jack whispered. Secure the prisoner, Williams ordered, and get me backup. Now. In the confusion, no one noticed the shadow that slipped through the back door. 4 arms moved with silent precision as Aurelia entered the cabin. Her eyes found Jack immediately, handcuffed and guarded by 2 agents. Outside, the light in the sky grew brighter. The agent's attention was divided between the approaching light and their prisoner. No one saw Aurelia until she was already moving. With remarkable speed, she disabled the 2 guards watching Jack. Her 4 arms struck precisely, hitting pressure points that rendered the humans unconscious without permanent harm. Zorelia, Jack gasped. You came back. I could not leave you, she said simply, using a key from one of the fallen agents to unlock his handcuffs. Agent Williams spun around, raising her gun. Freeze, she shouted, her eyes wide at the sight of the blue-skinned, 4-armed alien. Zorelia turned slowly to face her. Your weapon cannot harm me, she said calmly. Please lower it before my guards arrive and misunderstand. Guards? Williams repeated. As if in answer, the cabin walls shook as something massive landed outside. A high-pitched hum filled the air, and brilliant light flooded through every window. That, Zorelia said, would be the Navorian Royal Guard, and they are not known for their patience with those who threaten their queen. The cabin door burst open. 6 tall Navorian soldiers entered, their crystal armor gleaming in the darkness. Each had 4 arms holding advanced weapons that hummed with energy. Their faces, similar to Zorelia's, but with simpler crystal patterns, showed no emotion as they surveyed the room. Commander Varric entered last. His crystal structures were more elaborate than the regular soldiers, marking his high rank. He immediately dropped to one knee when he saw Zorelia. My queen, he said in the Navorian language, we feared you lost. Zorelia raised a hand, switching to English. Commander, secure these humans but do not harm them. Varric hesitated, clearly confused by the order. His eyes moved to Jack, who stood close to the Queen, and then to Agent Williams, who still held her gun despite being surrounded by Navorian weapons. Your Majesty, Varric said carefully, These creatures have held you captive. They must be punished. No, Aurelia said firmly. You misunderstand. This human, she gestured to Jack, saved my life. The others arrived later. Williams slowly lowered her gun, her training giving way to the reality of the situation. What is happening here? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Jack stepped forward. Agent Williams, meet Queen Aurelia of the Navorian Empire. Your government isn't the only one interested in what fell from the sky. Varric moved closer to Jack, his posture threatening. You will not speak to Her Majesty with such familiarity, Earth creature. Commander, Zoralia's voice was sharp. This human has earned the right. He tended my wounds when I was helpless. He protected me from his own kind. He is under my personal protection. The commander's expression showed his disapproval, but he bowed in acceptance. As you wish, Your Majesty. He turned to his soldiers. Secure the area. No Earth vehicles. Leave. No communications in or out. The soldiers moved with practiced efficiency. Within minutes, they had disabled all the NSA vehicles and equipment. The agents were disarmed and gathered in the main room of the cabin under guard. Jack approached Aurelia, who was speaking quietly with Varric. What happens now? He asked. Before she could answer, a soldier rushed in. Commander, our sensors detect multiple Earth aircraft approaching. Military designation. The Air Force, Williams said from across the room. I activated an emergency beacon before your soldiers arrived. Varric's eyes hardened. We will destroy them if they threaten the Queen. No, Jack and Aurelia spoke at the same time. Jack continued urgently. That would start a war. Your Queen is safe. There's no need for violence. Aurelia nodded. Jack is right. Commander, take us to the scout ship. We will leave this planet peacefully. Not without debriefing. Williams interrupted. That ship is the property of the United States government now. And you, she pointed at Aurelia, are a visitor on Earth soil. There are protocols. Jack moved between Williams and the Queen. Kate, think about what you're saying. They have technology. That can disable all our equipment with a thought. Do you really want to start an interstellar incident? Williams hesitated, ambition warring with common sense. Before she could respond, Varric received a message through his communicator. His expression changed instantly. Your Majesty, he said, bowing deeply. The royal battleship has entered this system. King Dravalik himself comes. Aurelia's eyes widened. Dravalik is here already? His Majesty left immediately upon news of your shuttle's destruction. He suspected assassination and sought vengeance. Jack felt a chill. Vengeance? Against Earth? Aurelia's expression grew worried. I must contact him immediately. If he believes your people harmed me. The sound of jets filled the air as Earth. Military aircraft circled above the forest. At the same time, the cabin began to vibrate as a massive shadow darkened the night sky. We must go now, Your Majesty, Varric insisted. Aurelia turned to Jack. Come with us. It is not safe for you here anymore. Jack looked around at the cabin that had been his home, at the NSA agents, watching with a mixture of fear and anger, at the Navorian soldiers waiting for orders. His life had changed forever the moment Aurelia's pod had crashed. Okay, he decided. Williams stepped forward. Harper, that's treason. No, Jack replied calmly. It's diplomacy. Someone needs to represent Earth, and I don't see anyone else. Volunteering. Outside, the Navorian scout ship had landed in a clearing near the cabin. It was smaller than Jack had expected, sleek and silver with no visible engines. The soldiers formed a protective circle around Aurelia as they moved toward it. The Earth jets flew lower, their pilots clearly spotting the alien craft. From their radios came urgent warnings to stand down. They're going to attack, Williams. Warned, having been brought along with the other agents, Varric raised a small device. Let them try. Suddenly, the jets veered away as if pushed by an invisible force. Their engines sputtered, and they glided away from the area, pilots clearly struggling for control. What did you do? Jack asked. Disruption field, Varric explained. With pride. Non-lethal, but effective. They boarded the scout ship quickly. Inside, Jack marveled at the alien technology. There were no buttons or screens, only crystalline surfaces that the Novorians touched in specific patterns. The ship hummed to life around them as they rose into the night sky. Jack looked down at the forest and the tiny figures of the NSA agents. Watching from below, everything he had known was falling away beneath him. Your first time leaving your world, Zeralia observed, standing beside him at a viewport. Are you afraid? Terrified, Jack admitted, but also amazed. The scout ship accelerated, the Earth's atmosphere giving way to the blackness of space. Stars shone more brightly than Jack had ever seen them. And ahead, growing larger by the second, was the massive form of the Royal Battleship. It was enormous, easily the size of a small city. Crystal spires rose from its surface, glowing with internal light. Smaller ships moved around it like protective insects around their queen. The celestial throne, Zeralia said, a note of pride in her voice. Flagship of the royal fleet. As they approached, a message came through the ship's communication system. A deep, commanding voice spoke in the Novorian language. Zeralia responded quickly, her tone urgent. What's happening? Jack asked when she finished. That was King Dravalok, she explained. He demands to know why a human is aboard. He has already detected military movements on your planet and believes you may be hostages. What did you tell him? The truth, that you saved me, that you come as a friend. She paused. But my husband is protective and suspicious by nature. The scout ship entered a massive docking bay. As the doors closed behind them, Jack felt the weight of his situation. He was the first human to board an alien spacecraft, about to meet. The ruler of 500 star systems. A ruler who might be planning vengeance against Earth. The ship settled onto the docking bay floor. Commander Varric approached, his expression serious. Your Majesty, His Royal Highness awaits in the throne room. He glanced at Jack with obvious disapproval. The king has commanded the human's presence as well. Jack took a deep breath. No pressure. Then, Zeralia placed one of her hands on Jack's shoulder. Stay close to me. Speak only when spoken to. And remember, to my people, you are as alien as we are to you. The door of the scout ship opened, revealing a contingent of royal guards. Waiting outside. At their center stood a tall, imposing figure with midnight blue skin and elaborate crystal formations that formed a natural crown around his head. King Dravalok had come to meet them personally, and his eyes, fixed on Jack with purple fire, held no welcome. King Dravalok stood motionless, his towering figure casting a long shadow across the docking bay. The crystal formations on his face glowed with a deep purple light, reflecting his emotional state. Around him, royal guards stood at attention, their weapons ready. My queen, Dravalok said, his voice deep and resonant. He extended his forearms in a formal greeting. You live. Zeralia stepped forward and mirrored his gesture. My king, I am well, thanks to this human. All eyes turned to Jack, who stood awkwardly beside the queen. He had never felt more alien than in that moment, surrounded by blue-skinned beings with 4 arms and crystal features. Dravalok's eyes narrowed. This creature? This is what saved you? Disbelief colored his voice. Yes, Zeralia said firmly. His name is Jack Harper. When my pod crashed, he found me injured and alone. He cared for my wounds, hid me from his authorities, and helped repair my communicator. Without him, I would not be here now. The king circled Jack slowly, examining him with intense scrutiny. Jack stood straight, meeting the alien ruler's gaze. Despite his fear, "Impossible," Travelak finally declared. "Humans are primitive, violent, self-interested. Our reports are clear on this matter." Jack cleared his throat. "With respect, Your Majesty, you might want to update those reports." A collective gasp rose from the Navorian guards. No one spoke to the king this way. Travalak's crystal structures darkened with anger. "You dare address me directly?" "Jack," Zerelia warned quietly. But Jack continued, his voice steady. "I do. Because right now, your ships are positioned above my planet. Your weapons are probably aimed at our cities. And based on reports that clearly got a lot wrong about us, you might be considering actions that can't be undone." Travalak turned to Commander Varric. "Is this true? Did this human truly save the Queen without knowing her identity?" "Without." "Expectation of reward?" Varric looked uncomfortable. "It appears so, Your Majesty. We found evidence of medical care at his dwelling. The Queen was hidden from his authorities. He risked punishment from his own kind to protect her." The throne room fell silent as the king considered this information. Finally, he turned back to Jack. "Why?" Travalak asked simply. "Why would you help a being not of your world?" Jack thought carefully before answering. "Where I come from, we have a job called medic. I was trained to help anyone who's hurt, no matter who they are. When I found Zerelia, Queen Zerelia, she was injured. I didn't see an alien. I saw someone who needed help." Travalak exchanged a look with his queen. Some unspoken communication passed between them. "Our royal fleet detected military movements on your planet," the king said. "Your weapons activated. Your aircraft approached our scout ship. These are acts of aggression." "They're acts of fear," Jack corrected. "Your ship appeared without warning. My people thought they were being invaded. Wouldn't you react the same way if unknown vessels appeared over your world?" A murmur ran through the assembled Navorians. Travalak silenced them with a gesture. "You speak boldly for a species that has not yet mastered interstellar travel," he observed. Jack nodded. "Maybe that's exactly why I should speak. We're young, compared to your empire. We make mistakes, but we're not as primitive as you think. We create art, music, literature. We help strangers. We look at the stars and wonder who else is out there." Zerelia stepped closer to her king. "My love, I have spent days among humans. Jack showed me kindness when he had no reason to do so. His actions reflect a quality rare in the galaxy, the ability to see past differences and recognize a person in need." Travalak was silent for a long moment. The fate of Earth seemed to hang in the balance. "Our laws forbid interference with developing worlds," he finally said. "By bringing you here," he looked at Jack, "we have already broken those laws." "Then maybe some laws need to change," Jack suggested, "or at least be re-examined." More gasps from the Navorians. Challenging the king's authority once was bold. Twice was unheard of. To everyone's surprise, Travalak laughed. The sound was musical and rich, filling the throne room. 500 years I have ruled," he said, "and no one speaks to me as this human does." He turned to Zerelia. "I begin to see why. You find him interesting, my queen." The tension in the room eased slightly. Jack allowed himself a small breath of relief. "A decision must be made," Travalak announced. "Our presence here violates our own protocols. The human authorities now know of us. This situation is unprecedented." Zerelia placed a hand on her king's arm. "Perhaps this is an opportunity, not a crisis. For centuries we have watched developing worlds from afar. Perhaps it is time for a new approach." Travalak considered her words carefully. Then he turned to Jack. "Human, what would you suggest?" Jack hadn't expected this question. He thought quickly. Contact, he said. Official, peaceful contact. Not with just one government, but with all Earth nations. Show yourselves not as potential conquerors, but as visitors. Teachers, maybe. And you believe your world is ready for such knowledge? Travalik asked. Ready or not, the secret's out, Jack replied honestly. Agent Williams and her team saw. Your ship. Military radar tracked you. Denying your existence now would only create fear and confusion. Travalik turned to his advisors, speaking rapidly in the Navorian language. After a brief discussion, he faced Jack again. Very well. We will. Initiate formal contact with your world's leaders. As a gesture of peace, we will share certain technologies, medical advances, clean energy methods, agricultural improvements, nothing that could be weaponized. Jack smiled. That's more than fair. And you, Travalik continued, will serve. As our first ambassador to Earth, you have proven yourself capable of seeing beyond physical differences. This quality will be essential in the days ahead. Me? Jack was stunned. I'm just a forest ranger. You are the human who saved a queen, Travalik corrected. The first of your kind to set foot on a Navorian vessel. And, he added with what might have been a smile, you have the courage to speak truth to power. These qualities make you uniquely suited to the role. Before Jack could respond, alarms sounded throughout the ship. An officer rushed into the throne room. Your Majesties, Earth forces have launched missiles toward our position. Their primitive weapons cannot harm us, but their intent is clear. Travalik turned to Jack. It seems your first duty as ambassador begins now. You will address your leaders and explain our peaceful intentions. Jack nodded, suddenly aware of the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. I'll need to speak to them from your ship. Show them I'm here willingly. Arrange it, Travalik ordered his communications officer. Minutes later, Jack stood before a crystal screen, facing the stunned expressions of military generals and government officials. Agent Williams was there too, having been brought to a secure facility. My name is Jack Harper, he began. I'm speaking to you from the Navorian royal vessel. I am here by choice. The aliens mean no harm. Their queen crashed on our planet, and I helped her. Now they want to help us. As Jack continued to explain, he noticed Zeralia watching him from across the room. She gave him a gesture that he recognized as approval. Beside her, King Travalik observed with newfound respect. 3 days later, the first official meeting between Earth representatives and the Navorian royal court took place aboard the celestial throne. Jack stood between the two groups, no longer just a forest ranger, but a bridge between worlds. As the human delegates marveled at Navorian technology and culture, King Travalik approached Jack privately. I did not believe it possible, the king admitted, that a human would save my queen, expecting nothing in return. You have changed how I see your species, Jack Harper. Jack smiled. That's how progress happens, Your Majesty. One person at a time, seeing beyond what they expect to find. Travalik nodded thoughtfully. Indeed. Perhaps that is a lesson even a 500-year-old king can still learn. As the diplomatic talks continued, Jack caught Zeralia's eye across the room. She gave him the Navorian gesture for friendship, a subtle crossing of her lower arms. He returned it clumsily, making her smile. In saving an alien queen, Jack had changed the course of 2 civilizations. Not bad for a forest ranger who had simply followed his instinct to help someone in need. The stars, once distant and unreachable, now represented not just wonder, but possibility. And somewhere in those stars, the Navorian Empire and Earth were taking their first steps toward a shared future.